Kendrick Lamar's Super Bowl halftime show was racist. There wasn't a single white performer.
I thought you wanted this country to be a meritocracy.
That wasn't a performance based on merit. It was a DEI performance. The Super Bowl should have hired someone like Kid Rock to perform.
Kendrick Lamar has won multiple Grammys and a Pulitzer Prize. What qualifications does Kid Rock have?
It's not about qualifications.
That's what a meritocracy is.
It's about the children. Imagine how all the white kids who were looking forward to the Super Bowl halftime show feel after not seeing themselves represented in it.
White people are already overrepresented in positions of power, in those who hold the most generational wealth, in our corporations, in media. I'm pretty positive that white kids will not feel like their skin color will prevent them from doing certain things just because they weren't represented.
You know, I don't do sports. You know, I don't do football, so I wasn't watching the game. But listen, I think today Donald Trump is going to sign an executive order banning black people from halftime. Because you remember last week we were talking about whether the NFL was capitulating to Trump by removing the term "end racism" from the end zone. Yeah. Boy, did they not capitulate to Trump. When I saw Samuel L. Jackson dressed as a black Uncle Sam introducing Kendrick Lamar, who then had like an entire formation of all black people making a U.S. flag. Listen, this much I know. All the black people on my feed were like, ooh, this is blackity black black. And all the racists who somehow get in, man, were they hopping mad. So if the racists are mad, I am happy as a clam.
Kendrick Lamar didn't just perform at the Super Bowl. He made a statement. His halftime show wasn't just about entertainment. It was about symbolism, storytelling, and pushing boundaries. The entire performance unfolded across 4 stages that were shaped like a PlayStation controller button. And that wasn't just a design choice. It was Lamar's way of showing his life as a video game, a journey through obstacles, survival, and resistance. While many people appreciated the artistry, others, especially some white viewers, felt confused or even uncomfortable. Some white folks watched and thought that was cool, but others dug deeper, listened to black voices breaking down the symbolism, and realized just how layered the performance was. The American flag imagery, the way the dancers moved, and the subtle nods to Lamar's ongoing themes, it was all intentional. But some white folks weren't just confused, they were angry. Some were upset that there were no white performers, no white dancers, no obvious appeal to white audiences. People who usually claim they don't see color suddenly saw it everywhere. But why did it bother them? Because this performance wasn't centered on them. It wasn't for them, by them, and about them. It didn't ask their permission, seek their approval, or cater to their comfort.
Good morning, YouTube. So apparently, Kendrick Lamar's Super Bowl performance brought out all the racism. These are the people who say that they want a meritocracy in America. Kendrick Lamar is a meritocracy. The man has 22 Grammys. He's been nominated 57 times. The man has a Pulitzer Prize. The man is decorated and celebrated. He is an extraordinary artist. He's a very complex, layered artist, and people are still having an issue. But the issue is not about a meritocracy. They want you to believe that it's about a meritocracy. But like I said, Kendrick Lamar is a meritocracy. So what is the issue now? The issue is the Super Bowl was not centered around them. The Super Bowl was not about them. And the reason that they find such issue, we're going to talk about it because y'all know I'm K-Dot for life. And so I'm looking at all of this coverage about people being so upset about a black man being celebrated, a black man showing symbolism about this country. And you know what? The biggest issue is the education in this country. I've said this in other videos. There are so many people that are uneducated about other people's race, their heritage, what their ancestors and, present people, what they've contributed to this nation. So they find offense when they are not censored in every conversation. So what Kendrick Lamar did was put on a masterclass. It was symbolism about Black excellence. It was symbolism about what Black people have accomplished and what we've achieved and what we've been through and what we're still going through. And I'm going to insert clips because I will be all day, because Kendrick is such a layered, he's a very layered person, right? He's a layered artist. That was art. People got mad at art. People got mad at education and being taught the significance of our heritage, our history, our ancestors, for a country that rails against DEI, which again means diversity, equity, and inclusion. For a country that talks all they want is a meritocracy and everybody to be treated fairly. But one of the most decorated artists of our time had a Super Bowl performance where he talked about, it's not about a meritocracy. This is a prime example of how it's not about a meritocracy. This is a prime example about if it's not white, it's not right. That's exactly what this is. Because what about that performance offended you? And people were saying Kid Rock should have performed. Kid Rock over Kendrick Lamar. What do you think that's about? I'm gonna give you one guess. Why Kendrick Lamar, a decorated artist, a man who has won 22 Grammys, have been nominated 57 times, he shouldn't have performed, but Kid Rock should have performed. What you think that was about? What? So, when it comes to K-Dot and Beyonce, when it comes to Black people who are so deserving of the things that they are doing, Kendrick Lamar, I can think of probably 2 other artists that are as deserving as this man for that moment. He deserved that moment. He worked his ass off his whole career for that moment. He's a very highly intelligent person. So this, and here's another thing. If things are not what some people perceive them to be, if you don't see Black and brown people shaking their ass and rapping about guns and all of those things, then it's almost as if you don't believe this man. I am so frustrated by this, because in this country that swears that it's all about a meritocracy, we just want people to earn everything. He has. So what's the problem with him? Because everything you say that you want people to do, he's done. So what was the problem? I've seen TikTok videos where people said, oh, well, there was not one white person on the stage. Do you know white supremacy is such a So if you're against DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion, that means that why would white people have to be on the stage? Why? Because apparently you're against inclusion. So when Black people advocate and push for inclusion and we all need to be together, it's problematic. But when a Black person does something and it centers only Black people, that's problematic as well. Kendrick Lamar, the decorated artist who performed on the Super Bowl, chose who he wanted to be on the stage with him. When certain people choose who they want to be around them, it's fine. But when we choose how we want our art displayed, how we want our art to be seen by the world, it wasn't any inclusion. I thought y'all was against inclusion. I thought inclusion was bad for America. I thought that was bad for America, to include all people. So now inclusion is, that's what you want. You want to push inclusion when you feel excluded. You only want to push inclusion when a certain class of people, a certain race of people are excluded. That's the only time you want inclusion. But when we talk about diversity, equity, and inclusion, on a wider scale, that's problematic. Because remember, y'all want a meritocracy. And Kendrick Lamar is a meritocracy. So why was that problematic? Anything we do apparently is problematic for some people. Look, Lord, these people are so frustrating. So I want to talk about two stories. I had a young woman to comment on my one of my YouTube videos, and I'm going to try to recollect her story correctly because I don't want to misspeak. But I believe she said that she was Mexican and white. I'm not exactly sure which parent was white, which parent was Mexican. It doesn't matter. But she was Mexican and white. She said her whole life she was taught that black people were lazy, they were stupid, and they are the reason, not the history of this country, not all that we've endured and all that we've been through, not that some people had a 400+ year head start. They don't talk about that. But they were saying black people are in the position that they're in because they're lazy and they're stupid. And I always say racism does not hold up to proximity. It's difficult to be racist, to hold these stereotypic ideologies about someone that you're standing next to. Somebody you work with, somebody you go to college with, whatever the case. So apparently this young woman, and I hope she watched this video, because when I tell you she made my day, I thought about her for the rest of the day. Because it's the reason I feel that this channel is important to me. And when I say I want to found my tribe, people often think that I'm talking about only black people. I love black people deep. But my tribe is people who believe in equality. People who believe in righteousness. People who believe that people should be treated equally. Nobody is asking for preference or preferential treatment. People are asking for equality. And that seems to be lost in the argument. And it's why it pisses me off. Because I've never asked for anything I didn't deserve. I can get on this platform and I can tell you about my degrees. I can tell you about how well traveled I am. I can tell you about all of the organizations I worked for. But it's not going to matter to some people. Because when they see me, they see a black woman. And to them, that means less than. The first thing somebody say that don't agree with me is that you're stupid, you're unintelligent, because that's a stereotypic ideology about black people, black women in particular, regardless to the fact that we are the most educated subgroup in this country. The most educated in this country is black women, and those same women are paid the least. How does that work? How does the most educated subgroup get paid the least? How? Explain it. You can't. So, this young girl was Mexican and white. She said her whole life she has been taught, conditioned, that black and brown, she didn't say condition, I'm saying condition, because that's what it is. It's being conditioned to think less than of somebody else because of the color of their skin, which is the most idiotic thing ever. So she's been conditioned to believe that black people are just lazy. They don't work hard. That's why they don't have stuff. If I tell you how hard I've worked my fingers to the bone, baby, for the life that I have. I worked for this. Ain't nobody ever gave me a job. Ain't nobody ever had to write me no reference or anything. I worked my ass off. I did. And it's why I have the things that I have. But we're going to get back to this young lady's story because I promise the whole day I couldn't think about anything else. I told all my family and friends about her. She hit me right here. She did. She told me, she said, I was taught black people, stupid, lazy, all the stereotypes, all the things. She said, and then I chose to go to a predominantly black university. She said, I've never seen people work so hard in my life. I've never seen people be so creative in my life. I've never seen people be so welcoming to me. A person that was Mexican and white, I never felt so included in my life. These people that she was taught her whole life were less than. They were lazy. They are the reason for their circumstances. Now she's in proximity with these people. And all of the things that she's been taught her whole life has been dispelled. This country has a problem. This country has a problem, and until we all get on the same page, it's going to keep having a problem and keep dividing us. Because people refuse to educate themselves. People refuse to be honest and transparent. It's the reason why I always say, and people at my job like, why are you saying that? I always say, I like my racism overt. Don't be covert with me, baby. Tell me how you feel. Tell me how you feel so I can know where to place you and I can know how to treat you. Because that subtle, those subtle little things that you say, I can hear it. I always say, being a black person, black people in particular, I don't know about y'all, but I can hear the bigotry. I can hear the racism. I have a story time on my page. I was working at a huge hospital in Chicago. I was working in their finance department. When I introduced myself to the manager on my first day, right before we went into orientation, we had just like a small little talk in his office. The first question he asked me was, did I have a relationship with my father? Why would you ask me that? The only thing he knew at that point, he knew about my degrees, he knew about my credentials, he knew about my education and my work experience, but personally, he knew nothing of me other than I was a black woman. Why would that man ask me, did I have a relationship with my father? I can hear it. I can hear it. So that was one story. And I don't want this to get too lengthy because I can go on and on and on about this topic. I can go deep about this topic, but I'm going to keep it very surface because I don't want to be angry. And this stuff makes me angry because it's unfair. And people try to wrap the conversation up with, oh no, we just want a meritocracy. We just want everybody to be treated fairly. But the minute the most decorated artist of our time is celebrated and he gives symbolism and messages and just break down the history of this country, it's a problem. And you know what the biggest problem is? It's the lack of education. People are not educated. They don't know history. They don't know true history. They know their history. They know what was taught to them to make them feel comfortable. But if you believe that just a whole entire race of people have not my second story, I'm not going to go there because I don't want to be in a bad headspace. So I'm not going to go there. My second story, I used to be an Uber driver. I was working at Bank of America at the time. I was working in middle office. I have a story about that. I wasn't being paid well. So on the side, I drove for Uber. And I had a rider. And he got in. He was very nice. And we started talking. I was taking him to the airport. I was taking him to the airport in Chicago O'Hare. It's one of our biggest airports. So I was taking him to the airport and we started talking. And he says to me, you're very intelligent. Almost like he was surprised. Like, and I'm not exactly sure because I was driving for Uber. He had a kind of like these ideologies because I was driving for Uber or because I was black. I'm not sure because classism is a thing too. Racism and classism, those are things. Those are real things. So he said, and he was a nice man. So it wasn't a matter of him just being evil. I think people who hold racist ideologies are just these pure evil. A lot of times it's ignorance, lack of education, lack of proximity, ignorance. So he says, you're intelligent. And he stopped. And I jokingly, because I'm a person who jokes a lot. You see this video and think like, oh, she's intense. No, I joke a lot. I like to laugh. I like to have fun. So I jokingly said, when he said, you're really intelligent, because I think we were talking about politics or something like that. And he goes, you're really intelligent. And I jokingly said, for a black girl, and we both started laughing. And he said, oh, I'm sorry. I said, don't be sorry, but we're going to have the conversation. I had a conversation with him about stereotypes. I had a conversation with him about proximity in education, and the same things I'm talking to you guys about. And he ended up tipping me like $40. He was just like, I'm so grateful I met you. He said, because I did grow up in a small white town, and I haven't been around. He said, I'm here. I think he was in Chicago. He was in the city for work. But he said, I don't get to be around other people, other races, what he meant. He said, and you just opened my eyes in ways I can't even describe to you. That's how you tackle racism. Because this man wasn't evil. He was uneducated. He didn't have proximity. He was ignorant. But he wasn't evil. And there are a lot of evil racist people. So let's not misunderstand what I'm saying. There's a bunch of ignorant, racist, hateful, horrible people. But not every person who hold these stereotypes and ideologies are just hateful. Not all of them. There are a lot of them, a lot of them, but not all of them. This man just lacked the knowledge and the proximity and the education. And so we talked. I was able to dispel a lot of the shit he was taught. And I'm not sure if that man went back to his town and whatever, but I knew when he was in my presence, he was going to be educated. When he was in my presence, he was going to know who I am, who my people are, what we came from, what we've endured, and what we've overcame, and what we are still overcoming. When he was in my presence, he was going to know the truth. So, there's a larger conversation, but the Kendrick Lamar performance was upsetting to some people because they lack knowledge. Some of them are just very hateful, and they push the narrative because they like to dwell in covert racism. Well, no, it's not about race. It's not about harming people. It's about a meritocracy. Kendrick Lamar is a meritocracy. So what's your excuse now? What's your excuse now? I'm going to go to work. And I'm going to talk to you guys later because as y'all can see, I can get worked up, and I will have this camera rolling to 5 p.m. and it's 5 o'clock in the morning. 12 hours. I can talk about this topic for 12 hours straight. And baby, I can get deep, and I'm not going to do that. But y'all can leave K-Dot alone because K-Dot is the truth, whether you like it or not. What you need to do is go listen to his music. Go listen to his albums and be educated. And maybe you wouldn't have the feelings that you have. Or maybe you will. But regardless to whatever, you're not going to be able to stop people like him. You're not going to be able to stop people like me. So get used to it and deal with it internally. Because you come to me with it. God bless y'all.